So there I was, years ago, looking at a police report after a heavy road train slammed into a locomotive at an active level crossing. The police took 4 hours at the scene, interviewed 3 witnesses, tested the warning bells, and immediately charged the truck driver with negligent driving occasioning death. They said, "Mate, the flashing lights were working, the bells were ringing. You obviously just ignored them and drove straight through. Case closed, right?" Wrong. Very wrong, as it turns out. When we came in to conduct a proper system-level inquiry, we stopped looking at what people thought happened and started looking at the physical physics. The train was running at 42 kilometers per hour in notch 6, which was top speed on its remote control. That meant when it passed the electrical induction loop sensor, it activated the warning lights only 11 seconds before reaching the crossing. 11 seconds! Now, the police calculated the axle weight of the road train, the friction coefficient of the road surface, and the reaction time needed. It takes a loaded double road train, mathematically, 14 seconds to come to a complete stop from sight speed. 14 seconds required, 11 seconds provided. The driver literally could not have stopped if his life depended on it. Which, unfortunately, the train driver's life did. The eyewitnesses who swore the truck driver had plenty of time to stop were not lying, but they were completely, utterly wrong. This is the fundamental problem with relying purely on human statements after a traumatic event. The human brain under acute stress is not a video camera, not even close. In trauma, we suffer from severe encoding gaps. The brain fills in the blank spaces with what it expects should have happened based on past experience or retrospective rationalization. A witness sees a flashing light and a collision, so their brain fills in the gap with, well, he must have run the light deliberately. Memory contamination happens within minutes on site when witnesses chat in the car park while waiting for emergency services. They trade stories, align details, and suddenly 3 independent witnesses share the exact same inaccurate timeline. Rederiving plain truth in an investigation is never about playing cop or trying to catch a traumatized worker in a lie. It is about treating human memory for what it actually is, a deeply subjective, highly malleable snapshot. Eyewitness testimony gives you the emotional context and the human narrative, but you cannot build causal analysis on narrative alone. You need hard, unyielding physical benchmarks to anchor those stories against reality, or you end up blaming a driver who was mathematically trapped by a broken timing system. That brings us to what we call the triangulation matrix, or overlaying the 3 pillars. In our data gathering methodology, when we first start, we set up what we call a PIPO Mark I chart. PIPO stands for People, Environment, Equipment, Procedures, and Organization. Mark I is just a raw brainstorming roadmap of all the potential data sources we need to go collect. But to move from Mark I to PIPO Mark II, where we actually identify facts, we have to cross-check every single claim across people, pixels, and paper. People means your witness statements and interview notes. Pixels means CCTV footage, telemetry logs, vehicle telematics, GPS data, and physical inspections. Paper means your permits to work, job safety analyses, standard operating procedures, and maintenance registers. You take a claim from a witness statement, you map it against the telemetry pixels, and you verify it against the written procedures on paper. To turn an assumption into a verified fact on your PIPO Mark II chart, it must pass a strict verification check, requiring at least 2 independent evidence sources before it gets classified as a genuine contributing factor rather than a non-contributing artifact or a bit of site gossip. I remember this one site vividly. Out in the Pilbara, red dust everywhere. A haul truck suffered a major engine compartment fire. I was interviewing the site maintenance supervisor, and he was absolutely adamant. He said, "Cam, mate, I swear to you on my life, our fitters conduct a thorough daily pre-start vehicle check every single morning, without fail." He showed me the signed paper checklists, all neat, all ticked off, perfect paper trail. Beautiful, right? So we walked out to the parking bay to inspect the burnt-out rig. I looked at the heavy steel hatch latches over the engine bay. These latches had 3 full weeks of caked-on, baked, solid Pilbara red mud, completely bridging the latch handles to the frame. The mud was totally undisturbed, cracked only by heat from the fire itself. You could not have opened that hood without cracking that baked mud. The paper said the check was done every morning. The physical equipment proved the engine hatch had not been lifted in at least 21 days. That is why we triangulate. Pixels and physical evidence do not rationalize, they do not feel guilty, and they do not lie to protect their job. Now, what happens when those 3 pillars directly fight each other? You have got written procedures detailing work as imagined. You have got worker interviews describing work as remembered. And you have got CCTV or telemetry recording work as done. Most untrained investigators get frustrated when these sources contradict each other. They think, someone is being dishonest, or the system is broken. But seasoned ICAM practitioners know that data conflict is actually where the gold is buried. When there is a wide gap between what the procedure says should happen and what the worker actually does on shift, that discrepancy is rarely caused by individual operator negligence. It is a massive red flag pointing directly at latent organizational conditions. If workers are regularly bypassing a 5-step isolation protocol or skipping a mandatory pre-start sign-off, ask yourself why. Are they faced with incompatible goals, where management demands 50 loads an hour, but the safety check takes 15 minutes? Are the correct tools missing from the tool crib? Has the business quietly rewarded speed over compliance for 6 months until an incident happened? The worker is just adapting to the operational reality created by the organization. The ICAM model is widely respected for a reason. When applied well, it moves investigations beyond simplistic human error explanations and toward a systemic understanding of how incidents actually occur. It creates space for learning, accountability without blame, and meaningful organizational change. If your investigation team arrives at an instant, smooth consensus within an hour of an event, be very suspicious. Instant agreement usually means you have settled on the easy, comfortable narrative that blames the frontline worker and protects the organizational status quo. True safety learning lives in the friction. It lives in that uncomfortable space between what management wrote down on paper, what machines silently recorded, and what traumatized human beings remember happening. When you embrace that friction and dig until you find the organizational trade-offs that set the scene, you stop writing thicker reports and start building safer systems. That is all for today on Cam's Corner. Keep asking why. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you next time.